Welcome to our channel, Simple Spoken English. Today, we bring you the incredible story of a man who changed the world forever. He is one of the most famous people in history, and even today, his name is known everywhere. He was a brilliant leader, a fearless warrior, a master strategist, and a lover of power. But his life? It was full of danger, betrayal, love, and war. And today, through this exciting story, you will not only learn about his life, but you will also improve your English in the most enjoyable way. So, are you ready to dive into the amazing life of Julius Caesar? Let's begin. The birth of a legend. Julius Caesar was born on July 12th or 13th, 100 BCE, in the great city of Gaul, Rome, the heart of the Roman Republic. His full name? Gaius Julius Caesar. But at that time, no one knew that this little baby would one day change history forever. Caesar was born into a wealthy and powerful family, known as the Julius family, gens Julia. This family believed that they were descendants of the gods, especially Venus, the goddess of love. His father, Gaius Julius Caesar, was a respected man, but not the most powerful in Rome. His mother, Aurelia, was a strong and intelligent woman who played a huge role in shaping Caesar's personality. A boy like no other. From a young age, Caesar was different. He was not just an ordinary boy. He was ambitious, smart, and determined. He loved to read, he loved to learn, and he observed everything around him. His mother made sure he had the best education, and soon he became excellent in reading, writing, speaking, and debating. But Rome, it was a dangerous place. Power and politics were brutal, and Caesar's family was always in the middle of it. And then tragedy struck. The death that changed everything. When Caesar was just 16 years old, his father died suddenly. This was a huge shock for the young Caesar. Losing his father meant that he had to take responsibility for his family at a very young age. But things got even worse. A powerful dictator named Sulla took control of Rome. And guess what? He saw Caesar's family as enemies. Sulla ordered Caesar to be killed. But did Caesar run away? No. Instead, he bribed the right people, used his intelligence, and managed to stay alive. This was Caesar's first taste of power and survival. He learned a crucial lesson. In Rome, you had to be smart, fearless, and always ready to fight for your life. A bold decision that almost cost him his life. At 17 years old, Caesar married his first wife, Cornelia. She was the daughter of a powerful Roman leader. But this was not just a marriage of love, it was a political move. In Rome, marriages were often about power and alliances. And Caesar? He was already thinking about his future. But Sulla, he hated this marriage. He ordered Caesar to divorce Cornelia or face serious consequences. And what did Caesar do? He refused. This was a bold and dangerous decision. Sulla was the most powerful man in Rome. Going against him, it could mean death. Caesar had to run away and live in hiding for a while, but instead of breaking him, this experience made him stronger, smarter, and even more determined to rise to power. Caesar becomes a warrior, After escaping danger, Caesar decided to join the army. And this was the beginning of his journey as a great warrior and leader. As a soldier, Caesar showed incredible bravery. He was fearless in battle, and his commanders quickly noticed his talent. He won medals for his courage, and soon people started talking about him as a future leader of Rome. But Caesar, he was not just a warrior, he was a thinker, a strategist, and a man with a vision. He knew that to become powerful, he needed to win the hearts of the people. The most unbelievable story of Caesar's life. One of the craziest and most interesting events in Caesar's life happened when he was still young. While traveling across the Mediterranean Sea, something shocking happened. He was kidnapped. By who? Pirates. Yes, you heard that right. Julius Caesar was kidnapped by pirates. These pirates demanded ransom money for his release. They asked for 20 talents of silver, a huge amount of money at that time. But guess what Caesar did? Did he beg for his life? No. Did he panic? Never. Instead, he laughed at them. He told them, "You are asking too little. I am worth at least 50 talents." The pirates were shocked. They had never met someone like Caesar before. And while waiting for the ransom money, Caesar acted like a king among them. He joked with them. He gave them orders, and he even promised that one day he would come back and punish them. And guess what? He kept his promise. As soon as he was free, Caesar raised an army, found the pirates, and destroyed them all. This event showed the world who Caesar really was, a man of confidence, intelligence, and ruthless determination. He was not just a man of words, he was a man of action. Julius Caesar returns to Rome, and his journey to power begins. After proving himself as a fearless soldier and surviving kidnapping by pirates, Caesar returned to Rome. But he was not the same man anymore. He was stronger, smarter, and more ambitious than ever. And this was just the beginning of his rise to power. What's next? Caesar's story is far from over. His life was filled with war, betrayal, love, and ultimate power. Want to know how he became the most powerful man in Rome? How did he win the people's hearts? And what led to his shocking and tragic end? The road to power begins. Rome was not a peaceful place. It was a battlefield, a war of politics, power, and survival. And Caesar, he was determined to rise, but he had to be smart, clever, and if necessary, ruthless. When Caesar returned to Rome, he saw chaos everywhere. The government was controlled by powerful, corrupt politicians who had all the money, all the influence, and all the soldiers. They did not want young, ambitious men like Caesar to challenge their rule. But did that stop him? No way. He had a plan. Caesar knew that to win power, he needed the support of the people. And what do people love? Entertainment. So he started organizing grand public events, gladiator fights, games, and festivals. He spent huge amounts of money he didn't even have. He borrowed from rich and powerful friends, but it was worth it. The people of Rome began to love him. They cheered his name in the streets. He was no longer just a man, he was a hero. But Caesar didn't just want popularity, he wanted real power. And in Rome, power came from politics and the army. Climbing the ladder of power. Caesar's next move? Politics. He became a lawyer. And oh, what a speaker he was. His words were powerful, emotional, and impossible to ignore. He could turn a weak argument into a winning one, and soon everyone in Rome was talking about him. Step by step, he climbed higher. He became a military tribune, then a quaestor, a financial officer, and later, a senator. He was getting closer to the top, but with success came enemies. Many rich and powerful men in Rome hated him. They saw him as a threat, too ambitious, too popular, too dangerous. Then tragedy struck. Caesar's wife, Cornelia, passed away. It was a painful moment for him. She had been by his side through the hardest times. But in Rome, marriage was often about power, not love. Soon after her death, Caesar married Pompeia, a woman from a powerful family. But this marriage ended in scandal. Pompeia was accused of having an affair, and although nothing was proven, Caesar divorced her immediately. His reason? "My wife must be above suspicion." This showed how careful he was about his public image. He wanted to be seen as strong, disciplined, and honorable. A turning point in Spain. After his divorce, Caesar was sent to Spain as a governor. There, something happened that changed his life forever. One day, Caesar saw a statue of Alexander the Great. He stood there, staring at it, thinking deeply. Alexander had conquered most of the known world by the time he was Caesar's age. But what had Caesar done? Nothing. At that moment, Caesar made a promise to himself. He would not stop until he became the most powerful man in the world. In Spain, he built his own army, fought battles, and proved his military genius. His soldiers loved him. When he returned to Rome, he was more powerful than ever, but he still needed something: strong allies. He was ambitious, yes, but he was not the richest or the most powerful man in Rome. Yet. The secret alliance. To take control of Rome, Caesar made a secret deal with two of the most powerful men in the city. One, Pompey the Great, a famous general, loved by soldiers, but struggling to keep his influence. Two, Crassus, the richest man in Rome, with more money than anyone, but not popular with the people. Together they formed the first triumvirate, a secret alliance to control Rome. With their support, Caesar was elected consul, one of the highest positions in the Roman Republic. He had power now, but he wanted more. The war that made him a legend. Caesar became the governor of Gaul, modern-day France, Belgium, and parts of Germany. Gaul was wild, dangerous, and full of fierce warrior tribes. No Roman leader had ever completely conquered it. Caesar saw this as his chance to become a legend. For 8 years, he led his army into one of the most brutal wars in history. The tribes of Gaul were fearless warriors, but Caesar was a military genius. He used strategy, speed, and intelligence to defeat them one by one. He built bridges in record time to cross rivers. He tricked enemies into thinking he was weak, then attacked suddenly. He divided and conquered, making sure the tribes never united against him. His most famous battle was the siege of Alesia. He surrounded an entire city, cut off all supplies, and starved his enemies into surrender. By the end of the war, Caesar had conquered all of Gaul. He was now one of the greatest military leaders in history. The final conflict begins. While Caesar was in Gaul, things in Rome were falling apart. His old ally Crassus died, and Pompey, he turned against him. The Senate, led by Pompey, ordered Caesar to give up his army and return to Rome as a normal citizen. But Caesar knew the truth. If he returned without an army, he would be arrested and executed. So what did he do? He refused. At that moment, history changed forever. Caesar stood at the Rubicon River, the border of Rome. He looked at his army, then at the water. If he crossed, it would mean civil war. If he stayed, he would lose everything. With a deep breath, he said the famous words, "Alea iacta est." The die is cast. Then he marched his army into Rome. And just like that, Rome was at war. What happens next? Will Caesar defeat Pompey and take control of Rome? Will he finally become the most powerful man in the world? Or will his enemies destroy him before he reaches his goal? Today, we continue the incredible story of Julius Caesar, a man who conquered nations, defied traditions, and changed history forever. But power comes with a price. Betrayal, war, and deadly enemies awaited him. Would Caesar survive, or was his fate already sealed? Listen carefully, improve your English effortlessly, and get ready for the rise and fall of Rome's greatest leader. Crossing the Rubicon. A war begins. Caesar stood at the edge of the Rubicon River, staring at the waters ahead. He knew that if he crossed, there would be no turning back. Rome had ordered him to return as a normal citizen, without his army. But he refused. With a final decision, he marched his army across the river, officially declaring war on Rome. This was treason, an act of rebellion. The Roman Republic was now in civil war. Caesar's main enemy was Pompey, once his ally but now his greatest rival. The battle between them was brutal, but Caesar's army was stronger, faster, and more disciplined. One by one, Pompey's forces fell. Defeated and desperate, Pompey fled to Egypt. But instead of finding safety, he was betrayed and murdered. When Caesar arrived in Egypt, he was presented with Pompey's severed head. But instead of celebrating, Caesar was furious. He believed Pompey should have been captured with honor, not killed like a criminal. But in Egypt, something unexpected happened. Caesar and Cleopatra, a love that shook the world. In the golden palaces of Egypt, Caesar met Cleopatra, the young and brilliant queen. She was intelligent, charming, and breathtakingly beautiful. She needed Caesar's help to secure her throne, and he was captivated by her. Their love affair became one of the most famous in history. Caesar helped Cleopatra defeat her enemies and secure her rule over Egypt. In return, she became his lover. They spent many nights together, sailing the Nile, discussing power and dreaming of a great empire. Soon, Cleopatra gave birth to their son, Caesarion. But back in Rome, the news of this affair caused a scandal. Caesar was already married to his third wife, Calpurnia, and the Romans were outraged that their leader had a child with a foreign queen. But did Caesar care? Not at all. He had bigger plans. Caesar's triumphant return to Rome. With Pompey dead and Egypt secured, Caesar returned to Rome in triumph. He did not enter the city as a politician. He entered like a god. Wearing a purple robe, riding a golden chariot, he led a massive victory parade. For 40 days, the streets of Rome were filled with celebrations, gladiator fights, and games. The people cheered his name. Caesar was now the undisputed ruler of Rome. He was given the title of dictator, meaning he had absolute power. He could make laws, control money, declare war, and punish enemies. No one could challenge him. But he knew one thing: power meant nothing if Rome was weak. So he began his greatest mission, to reshape Rome itself. The reforms that changed history. Caesar introduced some of the most radical reforms in Roman history, helping the poor. He gave land and money to soldiers and poor citizens. Fixing the calendar, he introduced the Julian calendar, which we still use today. Expanding Rome, he planned new cities, roads, and government offices. Granting citizenship, he gave Roman citizenship to more people, making Rome stronger. The people loved him. He was making Rome better, richer, and more organized. But not everyone was happy. The rise of a king? Many senators and Roman elites began to fear Caesar. He was acting like a king, and in Rome, kings were hated. Then, something shocking happened. Cleopatra arrived in Rome with Caesarion, their son. She lived in a luxurious villa, and rumors spread that Caesar wanted to marry her and make her queen. Worse, some whispered that he wanted Caesarion to be his heir. But Rome was a republic, not a monarchy. No Roman leader had ever passed power to his son. The Senate was in panic. Their fears only grew when Caesar began making bold moves. He placed his own statue in temples, like a god. He sat on a golden throne and wore royal robes. At a public festival, his friend Mark Antony tried to put a golden crown on his head. Caesar refused twice. But everyone could see the truth. He wanted absolute power. The Senate knew they had to stop him. If they didn't, the Republic would be destroyed forever. The assassination plot. A secret group of senators, led by Brutus and Cassius, began to meet in secret. They believed there was only one way to save Rome. They had to kill Caesar. They saw themselves as heroes, defenders of the Republic. They planned the assassination carefully. It had to be public, dramatic, and final. And so the stage was set for one of the most shocking betrayals in history. What happens next? Would the conspirators succeed? Would the mighty Julius Caesar, conqueror of Gaul, lover of Cleopatra, and master of Rome, fall to his own people? Or would his name live on forever? A dangerous man. Julius Caesar was too powerful. He was loved by the army, the people, and even many senators. But power comes with enemies, and some Roman elites believed that if they did not stop him, he would become a king and destroy the Republic forever. So a group of conspirators, including Brutus and Cassius, made a decision. They would kill Caesar before it was too late. They chose a special day for their attack, the Ides of March, March 15th, 44 BC. A bad omen, the night before the assassination. The night before the attack, Caesar's wife, Calpurnia, had a terrible dream. She saw Caesar's body covered in blood. She woke up in fear and begged him not to go to the Senate that day. For the first time in his life, Caesar hesitated. He was always brave, always confident, but something about this day felt wrong. The next morning, a soothsayer, fortune-teller, warned him, saying, "Beware the Ides of March." But Caesar laughed it off. He had never feared anything in his life. Why should he start now? So he ignored the warning and went to the Senate. The betrayal. The assassination of Julius Caesar. As soon as Caesar entered the Senate, he was surrounded. At first, he thought nothing of it. These were senators, his colleagues, his allies. But then, suddenly, a sharp pain in his back. One of the conspirators stabbed him, then another, and another. Caesar fought back. He was a soldier, after all, but he was outnumbered. The most painful moment was not the knives in his body. It was what he saw next, his close friend, Brutus, raising a knife against him. Caesar looked at him and said his famous last words, "Et tu, Brute?" Even you, Brutus? At that moment, Caesar stopped fighting. If even Brutus, the man he trusted most, had betrayed him, then it was over. He fell to the ground, bleeding. The great Julius Caesar was dead. The aftermath. Rome in chaos. The conspirators thought they had saved Rome. They believed they had protected the Republic. But they were wrong. Instead of peace, they created the biggest crisis in Roman history. The Roman people loved Caesar. He had given them land, food, money, and hope. Now, the Senate had taken him away. When the people heard of his assassination, they were furious. Riots broke out. The city was in chaos. The very people who had killed Caesar now had to run for their lives. But what really turned Rome against them? One man, one speech, one moment that changed history forever. Mark Antony's revenge, the funeral speech that shook Rome. At Caesar's funeral, Mark Antony, his closest friend and most loyal general, stood before the people. He was smart. He knew exactly what to do. He lifted Caesar's bloody cloak and showed it to the crowd. Then he spoke. "Look at this blood. This was the blood of your hero, your leader, your protector. They called him a tyrant, but he loved you all. And now he is dead, killed by his own friends." Then he read Caesar's will. Caesar had left money and land for the poor. Even in death he had cared for them. The people exploded with rage. Within hours the city burned. The homes of the conspirators were destroyed. The men who thought they had saved Rome now had to run for their lives. The Republic was dead. The war for Rome. Caesar's heir rises. With Caesar gone, Rome was divided. On one side, the assassins, Brutus and Cassius. They believed they were fighting to save the Republic. On the other side, Caesar's loyalists, Mark Antony, Octavian, and Lepidus. They wanted revenge. At first, the Senate thought they still had power. But they underestimated one man, Octavian. The unexpected heir. Who was Octavian? Octavian was just 18 years old. He had no army, no experience, and no real power. But he had one thing no one else had: Caesar's name. In Caesar's will, Octavian was officially adopted as his son and heir. From that moment on, he was no longer just a teenager. His new name was Gaius Julius Caesar Octavianus. At first, people laughed at him. They thought he was too young, too weak. But Octavian was smarter than they realized. He joined forces with Mark Antony and Lepidus, forming the Second Triumvirate, a group of 3 leaders with one goal: revenge. The War of Revenge, the final battle. The new rulers of Rome hunted down the conspirators. Thousands were executed. Brutus and Cassius escaped to Greece, but they knew their time was running out. The final battle between Caesar's murderers and his heirs took place in Philippi, Greece. On one side, Brutus and Cassius, the killers of Caesar. On the other side, Mark Antony and Octavian, the new rulers of Rome. The battle was bloody and brutal. In the end, Mark Antony and Octavian won. Brutus and Cassius killed themselves rather than be captured. Caesar's revenge was complete. The beginning of an empire. Now there were only 2 powerful men left in Rome: Mark Antony, Octavian. Would they rule together, or would they fight for ultimate control? What happened next changed the world forever. But that is a story for another day. What happens next? Would Rome finally have peace, or would it be torn apart by another war? Did you enjoy this story? Let us know in the comments. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Simple Spoken English for more exciting stories that help you learn English in the most fun way possible. The Fall of the Roman Republic, the Rise of an Empire. Welcome to Simple Spoken English, where we bring history to life while helping you improve your... We continue the story of Julius Caesar's legacy and the war that led to the birth of the Roman Empire. This story is filled with love, betrayal, war, and power. Listen carefully, and by the end, you'll have learned new words, improved your listening skills, and understood one of the greatest turning points in history. dividing the empire. A temporary peace. After Caesar's death, two men remained in power, his closest ally, Mark Antony, and his adopted son, Octavian. To avoid war, they divided the empire between them. Octavian controlled the West, Rome, Italy, Spain, and Gaul. Mark Antony controlled the East, Egypt, Greece, and Asia. For a while, this peaceful arrangement worked, but soon they became enemies. And it all started with one woman, Cleopatra. Mark Antony's fatal mistake. Love over Rome. Mark Antony fell in love with Cleopatra, the Queen of Egypt. This was not just a love story, it was a political disaster. Antony left his Roman wife, who was Octavian's sister, and moved to Egypt. He had 3 children with Cleopatra and started living like an Egyptian king. Instead of acting like a Roman general, he dressed in Egyptian clothes and followed Egyptian customs. This was the perfect excuse for Octavian. He told the Roman people, "Look, Mark Antony has abandoned Rome. He has become an Egyptian. He is under Cleopatra's spell." The Roman people turned against Antony. Now there was only one way to settle this: war. The final battle, Actium, 31 BC. In 31 BC, Octavian declared war on Mark Antony and Cleopatra. The two sides met at sea in the Battle of Actium, one of the most important naval battles in history. Octavian's fleet was stronger and better prepared. The battle was fierce and brutal. Mark Antony and Cleopatra fought desperately, but in the end, Octavian's fleet destroyed their navy. Antony and Cleopatra had lost everything. They fled back to Egypt, knowing their fate was sealed. The tragic end. Death of Antony and Cleopatra. Mark Antony could see no way out. Rather than be captured, he stabbed himself. When Cleopatra heard the news, she was devastated. She knew that if Octavian captured her, she would be paraded through Rome as a prisoner, a humiliation worse than death. So, she made a final decision. Cleopatra let a poisonous snake bite her, ending her life. With their deaths, Octavian had won. He was now the most powerful man in the world. The birth of the Roman Empire, the first emperor. In 27 BC, Octavian took a new name, Augustus, the Great One. With this, the Roman Republic was officially dead. Rome was now an empire. Augustus was the first emperor, and this empire would last for 500 more years. The legacy of Julius Caesar, a name that lives forever. Julius Caesar was gone, but his impact never faded. He changed Rome forever. His name, Caesar, became the title for all future emperors. His ideas about government, war, and leadership are still studied today. Even Shakespeare wrote a famous play about his life. Even 2,000 years later, people still say his name. Lessons from Julius Caesar's life. Julius Caesar's story teaches us many things. Never let fear stop you. He was kidnapped, betrayed, and attacked, but he never stopped moving forward. Be bold, take risks. He crossed the Rubicon, took Rome, and became the greatest leader of his time. Power comes with a price. His ambition made him great, but it also made him enemies. Your name can live forever. Even after 2,000 years, people still remember him. Julius Caesar may have died, but his legacy is immortal. Want to learn more? If you want to hear more about Cleopatra's incredible life, I have already made a detailed story about her. In that video, I explain her childhood and rise to power, her love story with Julius Caesar and Mark Antony, her tragic end. It's a perfect story to improve your English listening skills while learning about history in an exciting way. So don't forget to watch it. Join the journey. Subscribe now. Subscribe to Simple Spoken English and take one step closer to mastering English. Every lesson brings you new confidence, new skills, a brighter future. Keep learning, keep growing, never give up. Your success